Hey everybody! In this video we are going to be looking at identifying and solving the ambiguous case. So what you need to know is that this is a situation that occurs when working with the law of sines. Not the law of cosines, it comes up with the law of sines. Good news is, I have a checklist for you. If you follow this checklist, you can check to see if anything is an ambiguous case. Item number 1. Have you been given two sides and an angle that is not contained between the two sides? So you need two sides to be provided to you and an angle, but that angle can't be between the two sides. That's the first item. Second item on the checklist is the side that is opposite the known angle, so that angle that you just got in checklist part 1, the smaller of the two. So you have two sides. The smaller side needs to be across from the known angle. If both of these give you a check mark, we're now looking at a situation that has 0, 1, or 2 answers. Now let's check this out on some example triangles here. We'll just go ahead and we get an example triangle down, and we're just going to fill in some values. 10 and 9, and we fill in a little angle here that's 30 degrees. And we check it out. Have you been given two sides and an angle that is not contained between the two sides? Well, we have two sides and an angle, and that angle's not between the two sides. So check mark. Is the side opposite the known angle the smaller one? It's not. It's not. That 10 is bigger than the 9, so this is not an ambiguous case. Let's go ahead and get rid of this triangle, and we'll get another one out, and we'll check and see how the checklist works again. So, brand new triangle going down. We know our checklist. We know what we're looking for. This time we have a 6 on one side, a 40 degrees, and a 75 degrees. Hit the checklist. Have you been given two sides and an angle that is not contained between the two sides? Looks to me like we were just given two angles, not two sides. So this is not an example of the ambiguous case. That's okay. There's going to be lots that you're going to see. I want you to be like super sure which ones are the ambiguous case. We get another triangle down. Once again, we can label the sides. We have an 8 on one side, 10 on the other, 30 degrees. My clever little cupcakes are looking at this and being like, what are you doing to me? What are you doing to me? Have you been given two sides and an angle that is not between the two sides? No, that angle is contained between the two sides. That's the angle that connects them. Not an ambiguous case. Another triangle. In this triangle, we're going to label it again. An 8, a 10, and a 40 degrees. Have you been given two sides and an angle that is not contained between the two sides? Yes, we have two sides and an angle it's not. Is the side opposite the known angle the smaller of the two? Yes, that 8 is across from the 40, and it is bigger than the 10. This is an ambiguous case, and now we are going to actually solve it. Because it is an ambiguous case, it means that there is now 0, 1, or 2 potential answers. And there's a few ways to check beforehand, but I find it's easier to just do the law of sines and find out. So we're going to set up our law of sines. And if we set up our law of sines, we're going to have to define theta that we're looking for. So we'll go ahead and chuck that in there, which is across from the longer side. So we have sine of 40 over 8. That's a matching pair. We have sine of theta over 10. Law of sines, no problem here. Hopefully you've watched some of my law of sines videos. This is just a little step up. We simplify this by multiplying the 10 across to the other side. We have sine of theta is equal to 10 sine 40 degrees over 8. Great. That goes into the calculator nicely. We can plug and chug that out. We get sine of theta is equal to about 0.8035. Inverse the sine of that, about 53.5 degrees. Bam! We got it. But that means that we have at least one answer. And if you have at least one answer, there's probably two. If you've seen one of my previous videos on how to find a second answer when doing sine, you would know that to get the second answer, it's 180 subtract the theta that your calculator provides. In this case, the theta was 53.5, so we subtract that from 180 to get 126.5. What that means is that there are two possible angles for this triangle. There's two answers that this could have been, the 53.5 or the 126.5. I'm going to throw up another triangle here because I want you to see what would happen if it wasn't a case with two answers. Once again, we're going to have a side with 8 and a side with 10, but instead of the 40 degrees, I'm going to stick 55 degrees in here. Everything else should look similar, but we're going to see how this turns out. It's an ambiguous case. We have an angle not between two sides. The side opposite the known angle is the smaller of the two. Double check marks. Ambiguous case. Let's solve for theta. We set up our law of sines. Sine of theta over 10 is equal to our sine of 55 over 8. No problems so far. We clean this up. Sine of theta is equal to 10 sine 55 over 8. Still looking good. We know it's the ambiguous case, but there's no reason to believe that there's no answer so far. But when you clean that up, you get sine of theta equals 1.02. Can't take the inverse sine of that. If you try, it's going to crash your calculator. This is not possible. And because this is not possible, there are no answers. No theta exists, so it's just an impossible triangle. And that's okay, because that's your answer. We've looked at 2, and we've looked at none. How do you get 1? How do you get one triangle if there's two possible triangles? And the simple answer is if the first theta is 90 degrees. If that first theta is 90 degrees, you plug it into your equation to get the second theta, and it's just 180 subtract 90, which is 90, and it just gives you the same triangle twice. So those are the different options for the ambiguous case and how you solve them. As long as you remember how to get that second angle for sine, you should be all right. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please feel free to leave comments in the space below.